Actually, I did just learn we're good. We're starting, but I did learn something from Avi, man. I learned a new phrase. Swallow the whole pickle happens when someone goes all in on a risky new project that they can't take smaller bites or stop halfway. And I was giving the example. Zuckerberg is swallowing the whole pickle on XR, and it's a big motherfucking pickle. I like it, man. I like it. I know you got big problems with the metaverse.
I I have big problems with who is likely to pursue the metaverse first. Obviously, the news just came out that I mean, Zuckerberg's been saying this for a while. That they want the metaverse to exist and they want to be at the forefront of it. But really, it's like kind of the first news that we're seeing all the restructuring going around at Facebook to really get this done. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are finally pushing developers to be on open platforms such as OpenXR, first of all. So, really, a lot of the work is going to be done for them. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done on their side, and they want to be ready to have those tools available. But
It seems rushed, doesn't? Well, not rushed, but the announcement and the fervor and just like him all in, like we knew you're all in, like you made it as clear as how much you like Sweet Baby Ray's, but like all of a sudden you just went like straight for the jugular, and now it's I can't log on to Twitter without reading an argument on what the metaverse is, and I guess it's social based because he said so.
I mean, yeah, I do agree that it all starts with like you can't have a metaverse without a social baseline, which is actually ironically where I think Facebook struggles with a lot actually when it comes to like VR, XR, whatever. It's the most ironic thing. They are literally a social media Goliath, yet they've had multiple failed projects and like social VR platforms. They just can't get it right. And it stems from a bunch of issues, but I think the biggest issue is really the kind of echo chamber that kind of goes on within Silicon Valley of like what do we need to either regulate or have available for social VR. You can see that especially in the avatar designs. I know this is a very controversial opinion about like avatars, but I don't really see people rushing to like VR chat to make avatars based on what they look like in real life. Whereas Facebook is like, we gotta make you look well like a sort of like a what's that, like a Bitmoji in
Yeah,
VR sort of thing. And I think that's where a lot of the like people look at this and they're like, man, why would I go to this when I can be whatever I want, change into whatever I want? It's just I can go on about all the problems with it, but
it's really interesting that they
yeah,
have that problem though too, because they are the social platform. I mean, their movies, the social network, like that's
yeah.
what you're known for. But something about keyboard warriors, you're real good at. But when it comes to creating virtual beings and that dynamic of not behind the keyboard, man, do they falter? Do they falter hard? I'm with you on the avatars. Uh, Brad Kuhn on VR chat. What made you choose that? I got to ask that avatar. Like when you first were all in on it, I'm like, okay, that's Brad's using that avatar, dude. That avatar is you now. That avatar is you. I
Yeah.
see it. That's Brad. It's now an extension of you. Like why that avatar? That's like the most interesting part of why people choose it. I gotta understand.
Really, my avatar is sort of a mixture between an avatar I really liked. I really can't explain it. I know you were on the hunt for like, you might still be on the hunt for your avatar that
Oh,
you
I'm
just
making it.
connect with.
I'm making it right now.
You're making it. Okay, that's a good way to do it. But honestly, like Brad Chan, it does feel like me. Like I do not jump into social VR. I'm not someone who changes between avatars. When I'm in social VR, I'm Brad Chan because I really feel this is me in the virtual world. The first feeling that like I when I first got into full body tracking, which really it really got me into social VR as a concept. I was terrified of social VR before I got into full body tracking. Which we should bring that up later because I
Oh,
really want to
absolutely.
talk about something
Absolutely.
about that. But anyway, yeah, and then I stepped into this avatar. It was one of the avatar kind of like templates on display at VKit 4, which is a very giant convention where they show off a ton of creators stuff, mostly for VR chat and like digital platforms and well, more recently actually hardware as well for VR.
Mm-hmm.
But when I stepped into it, something just clicked in my brain. Like something, I don't know if it's the proportions or just everything about this made me feel comfortable. Like for the first time, I felt comfortable in social VR, and it was just sort of a domino effect from there. And then I just kept changing it and adding my own like real life flavor to it. And now it's just like I can't imagine being in VR without all of these things, especially when I add like I have eye tracking and face tracking working for it in Neos, and then I go back to VR chat and I don't have eye tracking and face tracking in VR chat, and I feel like a huge disconnect with my virtual body, which actually hurts my real. It's a rabbit hole, I swear. It's craziness.
It's clear as day that it's you, man. Like when I see that you in that avatar, like in your pictures, like it's like it's the equivalent of me looking at someone's like photo when I'm walking up their stairs at their house. It is comfortable when I see you in that avatar, and that is goals. It's goals. I think like it's people were let's put it this way. So have you been to the VR chat avatar museum, the most recent one they have?
Yeah.
It's like endless rooms after endless rooms after endless rooms. It's beautiful. The works that are in there are beautiful. But I went through every room. I think there's like 45, 46, like there's a lot. And I didn't feel it. And that it's a big disconnect. But man, if you find an avatar you like you're automatically more comfortable. Which is why I'm decided to make my own, which I'm really excited. And the second I get that, man, I gotta hook up with you. You gotta show me around to the good places.
Well, I guess let's just start talking about this now because I think so. You got into full body tracking pretty soon after I did. I remember.
Yes.
And I don't know, what was your relationship with like VR chat? We'll start off with before
nothing.
Full body tracking. Nothing.
So right. I'll put it this way: one of the best experiences of my entire VR life was in VR chat. It was probably the first one too. That made me just dizzy due to the heights that I was at. Made me feel serene. I've told the story numerous times with Provi, but just climbing up this mountain goddess and trying to reach it, hands down, top 3 most memorable experiences I've ever had in VR. So that is about my experience with it. Other than that, it is extreme anxiety. I'm gonna be honest.
Oh yeah, I think I actually remember you talking about that. You were tweeting about how. So you're discussing how in real life you're very extroverted, but in social VR you clam up. Mm-hmm. For me, it's the complete opposite, which is originally why I was so afraid of social VR. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you haven't found your comfort avatar yet. Because again, full body tracking kind of got me into actually exploring VR chat and other social VR apps like Neos. And then when I got my avatar, I just felt 100 times better to actually explore and talk to people in VR. So it's really interesting.
What do you attribute that to?
Maybe there's a weird. I wish I could do research on this honestly, because I feel like there's just something there that just clicks in people's brains in like a weird way. Like I can't explain how I felt. It's just like it really just felt like a switch in my brain. Just made me start feeling comfortable after I started messing with Brad Shan and stuff, or become the Brad Shan.
The Brad Shan. I've had like really high thoughts, to be honest, about this concept quite a bit. And it's like the body I was born with, the body that I have now grown into, it's like I accept it. I love it. Like this is who I am now. But did I accept it fully by choice or fully by like this is how your body grows? There's nothing I can do about it. Who I am. I'm not a super tall guy. I'm not ever going to be a linebacker in the NFL. Like this is who I am. No problem. I've grown to love it, but it's who I am. But maybe subconsciously, I've always wanted to change something. And now, virtually, people are like, oh, that's the avatar. That's what I feel. That's what I want. Because, yes, maybe you're happy with yourself. You don't have to be unhappy that want change. You'd be happy. But subconsciously, we now have the ability to be who I want. You found it. Like, you found it. And that's fucking amazing. And that is some high thoughts I've always kind of thought about is maybe subconsciously, I'm unhappy with who I am. Not in a bad way, just, hey, here's now opportunities to change everything about me. Let's go. Like, let's go and have a good time. And that's what I'm doing right now with the avatar I'm building. Like, let's go all out. Let's make it fun. How far can I think on what I want? You know what I mean? But
Yeah, and I think this conversation all stems back to what we're talking about with like the Facebook's idea of what avatars should be. And I don't know. I just, again, there probably will be a huge mainstream appeal to this design, especially if you are not in the gaming sector, for example. But I think it's just, you are right now targeting gaming as like the entire focus of your product right now. You are trying to make social VR platforms around this idea of gamers and what they want. And literally every successful social platform are doing the opposite of what you're doing. And it's I was thinking about this today actually because it actually goes great with this metaverse topic, because Facebook's literal strategy for everything is throw money at the problem, and that's it. Like, that's really cut and dry. That's their strategy. And it really, the more I think about it, it hasn't worked out most of the time for them. Like, we think about, like, I bet you Medal of Honor was incredibly expensive. Like, a great example. That is like one of the most, I like the assets and everything that's in that game are insane. Like,
just the title alone, the IP alone, you're going to be paying for.
That too, yeah. The development studio, like a bunch of seasoned, super popular developers in the industry, but that game was an absolute flop for them. And there's not, I mean, really, a lot of their other ones that they have the same story where they just funded something incredibly well, but really didn't like give any, in my opinion, really any counseling to people. Like, they just throw money at people and development companies, and it's just, I don't think it really works, because we're such in a Wild West industry where this is why I actually think that they're transitioning and actually buying the people that are proving themselves in the VR Wild West rather than actually funding people not in it at all. But I just think throwing money into VR is actually not as successful as people are saying it is. Yeah, it's helping for the short term, especially for hardware right now. Like, you're getting hardware in the hands because you have so much money. Similar to how like the Steam Deck right now is also clearly only the Steam Deck can only exist, for example, because Valve exists. Like, it's not a product that could exist in today's market if Valve didn't exist. And same with the Quest 2. It only exists because Facebook exists, but it doesn't solve all the problems for VR. And I think that's what kind of frustrates me about
is the throwing money at it though. Like, so if I'm Facebook, and actually just talking with like some of the best developers that are in VR, like the ones who are actually crushing it, like Cloudhead Games, Resolution Games, Big Box, like these ones who are actually crushing it, like they admit half the time, if you follow them, and I know you do, like they don't know shit. Like, they're all figuring it out just like everyone else. So why would Facebook spend any time trying to figure out the unfigure-outable right now when they could just buy the people who seemingly have figured out bits of success? It makes sense to me. Look, can I ask you on the avatar? I want to go back to the Facebook avatars.
Okay, yeah, sure.
If I'm going to give them any leeway here, benefit of the doubt, do you think they're going these tamer real-life avatars to maybe make the user not disconnect too much from themselves, and in a way, a form of moderation?
That's a really brilliant way to think about it. And yeah, probably, because I know they're very intense about moderation. Like, any platform that they actually do have successful, I swear it's probably gonna be one of the most moderated platforms. Like, I imagine they're gonna have like AI systems that are literally listening to everything people say to each other and moderating based on that. But yeah, it's actually kind of crazy when you put it that way.
I just like, if I'm like making like even like the Ready Player Me avatars, when it's like, people will do those and they're beautiful. They're really nice avatars. Like Robin Reality, her avatar looks exactly like her. Like, it's great. But I have to imagine that if your avatar looks closer to you, you're gonna act accordingly. If I come in like mascots at a baseball game, they act nuts. Now that's their job. But putting on a suit and having the anonymity, like, I'm going nuts. Give me a panda suit. I'm gonna have a good time. Give me a panda suit, take the head off. Behave a little better. I'll behave a little better.
I think you are spot on with that. I mean, already the industry has, every big company in the industry, not just VR, but gaming, they hire psychologists to figure this stuff out, to solve the problem before a problem comes up. So when you bring stuff up like this, I bet you they have literal psychologists that are writing the team's thesis papers on like, okay, VR chat's doing this, but look at all the problems VR chat is having. Let's not have those problems because we are Facebook, and if we have these problems, that's going to be a class action lawsuit, and then let's start getting people's minds not to click that way like they do with these weird off avatars.
I hope you're right. I hope they're hiring those people. Like, I think you give them more credit than I do. Like, after speaking with Andrea, I don't want to mispronounce your last name. I won't try it. I apologize. I apologize, Andrea, if you're watching this. I did it right on the stream, but I will not mess up this time. But like, she says that more games should hire architects, which I agree with. And architects are fairly cheap. I've got to imagine a psychologist that they could hire is pretty cheap. But I'm wondering if they're really putting that much effort into it. Have you been in Horizon at all?
I was a long time ago, like probably 1 year ago. I checked it out, and I was
the
not
exact
impressed.
same. It hasn't changed.
Yeah,
it hasn't changed. So it's clear to me that they just haven't. Actually, I don't think they're trying to figure it out. I think their original plan was they're going to build a universe, and then they swapped it to build it for us, the users. And it works. VR Chat does it. Rec Room does it. But you can't have a closed alpha for 3 years or whatever it's been, where, like, I know Thrill Seeker, who was at OC6, where they promised everybody, I don't know if you were there. They promised everyone alpha invites, and there's a bunch of people who were there who didn't get it. Like,
yeah, that's pretty shocking, actually. It really is a test, because everyone in that audience is probably going to be more positive to the experience than anyone else. So it's really shocking that they don't let these people just go in there and give critiques or even make content, which is kind of probably arguably the most important thing when you are running a platform advertising the content creation tools.
Yeah.
But it's just, it feels very sterile, Horizons. That's really everything I would say about all of Facebook's social VR platforms, is everything feels sterile. And why will users choose to go into this? Like, they won't. VR chat is already on Quest, for example. There's insane amount of content for VR chat every day. Every time I log in at night, I see 100 new worlds that some of them are just insane quality. Like, it's hard, and you can throw money at it. They are, but it's still not clicking.
No, it's not. And they could,
and it's
if
funny.
They wanted to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead. You got a new topic. Go ahead, or a better point.
No, I just wanted to talk about the architects thing. I don't know about Facebook, but I know Valve. Like, I like to follow who Valve hires, for example, because I think it's very fascinating. They hire some very fascinating people from all walks of life, and architects are one of them. They're actually hiring themselves, and psychologists. And I really do think that Facebook probably does have psychologists. I mean, you cannot work on BCI or neural devices without having some sort of person saying, okay, this is what this guy's brain is thinking. This is how we can exploit it. Like, just stuff like that. So
I know, like, for an architect, like for Valve, like Andrea said, that the only game she's ever finished from start to finish in VR, it might even be all games because she's not a gamer, was Half-Life Alyx, for how great the architecture was. Like, I know, like, you've made, for anyone who's listening, like, Bradley has made community maps for Half-Life Alyx that are amazing. I think I might be putting words here, but from what I recall, out of anyone I knew, you, when that game launched, were one of the first people who had custom maps out for it. I feel like when that workshop went live, when I remember what I was digging through, you were first. Like, if I recall right, and it's a great map. It is honestly a great map. What instigated you just to go down that route? Because that's a huge undertaking. Before that, I hadn't known you creating anything really on Gameless. You had a YouTube channel, but you know what I mean.
No, you're right. I strongly feel my work making those maps is probably the most, like, I'm more proud of that than anything I've ever done for VR in general. So but it's because we had unofficial tools for Half-Life Alyx. It was before the workshop actually officially came out for Alyx, and the official tools. We had a bunch of people working on getting the assets from Alyx and making an FGD, which is like a asset pack, which you can. We use the my brain's not working. SteamVR Home tools, which is all Source 2 as well. And we just kind of stuffed all the Half-Life Alyx assets in there and started building maps before the official tools came out. And that's what I did. I had no experience beforehand building really anything. Actually, and when I first, I just was interested in this concept. I love Half-Life Alyx, and I just thought it'd be really cool to mess with all the different assets, like in Hammer, which is the level design tool. And originally I had no scope for it. I was just messing around. But then like when I built something, a very simple area, and then I just put the headset on, it was so amazing for me to see something I created, but at full scale in VR and be able to interact with everything I place. And from that moment, I was like, okay, this no scale is turning on to everything I believe works well in VR from my experience as someone who's been playing VR games for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I want to incorporate everything I believe works well in VR. I'm inexperienced, but everyone is. So I'm on an equal playing field to everyone. So, and there's a lot of new people, and it worked out. Like I made Crash Course. It's still, all 3 of my maps are in the top 10 on the workshop to this day.
Yes, they are.
I'm very proud of it.
It's well deserved.
But
you did a great job, man. You really did. Anyone who just know, if you go to Steam, go to the workshop tab on Half-Life Alyx, and they're all under there. Go play his map. Like if you're complaining that there's nothing to play, which we can get into that whole discussion. There's plenty to play in the workshop there. Many Bradleys. Go give them a shot.
Absolutely. And I'll be so happy if you even just leave a comment about it. Like I really do value my maps more than anything else. Like my videos are just like, compared to the work I do in map level designing for VR, videos are nothing to me. So
because you have, I mean, when you're making a map, like we make videos, right? Yeah. But there's only so much you can do. There really is. It's a medium that only allows you so much creativity, so many options, so many different ways to meet your community. Now there's different ways that we keep trying, like BMF's trying 360 and 180 degree videos right now. Everyone's trying different things to connect with their audience, but we're also limited. But at game design, when you're able to take these tools that Valve provided Brad and other people, you're creating, like, it's almost like when I spoke with Anton, like you're playing H3 VR, but you're kind of playing Anton's brain. Like that's his brain and his personality personified into a game. So when you play Bradley's map, yes, you're playing Half-Life Alyx and you're playing a workshop map, but you're playing Bradley. Like you're playing his brain on how it works. And that's way more expressive than what we can do on YouTube, no matter how hard we try. It's powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, it was a life-changing thing. And I keep saying how proud I am, but it's just like, really, it's made me not only just happy with myself about things I did, but it's really also allowed me to start thinking differently about really everything going on in VR. Even though it's a very small step to all the hardships that VR developers have to go through, I have a more open mind now because I did a chunk of it,
Is this how you got into Gabe's payroll and became the Valve spokesperson for YouTube, VR community YouTube?
So, okay, let's talk about that. Actually, I think it's very fascinating because people are kind of misunderstanding, I think, me a little bit when it comes to that stuff.
I hope you got the sarcasm there, by the way.
But there are people that are like that, and I think and this is why I like coming on to shows like this, because Twitter is terrible for expressing thoughts without looking like a absolute jackass, first of all. And so when I can come up here and explain everything, let's just do that.
Yes.
So I actually stopped doing VR YouTubing for a long period of time. I was very successful at VR YouTube, like right in 2016 and 2017. I was like full at it, like videos every week, almost every other day for a period of time. And I was killing it, but it wasn't making me happy at that time, so I stopped. And with me, I like to pursue things that interest me at the time. It's always related to VR, first of all. Like I've done the esports thing, I've done the mapping thing, I've done the YouTube thing. I try to do everything I can. And now I'm trying to transitioning to the point where I really am fascinated about the hardware that goes into making amazing VR experiences, because there's a huge argument right now in the VR community that we
Mhm.
don't need better hardware right now. We just need content. And yeah, there is merit to that, but I personally don't agree with that fully. I think the more interesting and the more amazing that VR hardware gets will actually make content feel way better inherently. It's like when I first got my Valve Index, I actually went back and played almost every other VR game I had up until that point, but it really felt more like these games were intended for this device more than the terrible. Honestly, the vibe was, I mean, it was amazing at the time, but
Hey,
after,
be nice, man. Be nice. That's what got me into VR.
it was what got me into VR too. But I gotta be honest. After trying the Index, I go back to the Vive. I'm like,
Oh,
this
yes.
thing's heavy.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Like, how
The
did I
screen door
spend?
effect could not have been worse on the Vive. It could not have
Yeah.
been worse.
Like, how did I spend more than 20 minutes wearing this thing, basically? And I think with every step up, it's gonna be like that. And with Valve, I kind of think Valve values comfort very highly, and they like doing a lot of other interesting stuff. And really, if you study, Valve's kind of the only company where you can actually study patents and like a couple string leaks and literally piece together the writing on the walls of what they're working on. And I like to know what is going to come out next year in VR. Sure, we have new stuff coming out this year, but I don't know. It's very interesting because I open up a patent. There are words I've never heard before in my life. So I start reading a patent and I start looking up what these words mean, like saccadic stuff, which is if your eyes are moving super fast, you are actually blind for about 40 minutes a day due to rapid eye movements, for example. Because when you are moving your eyes fast, your eyes are, okay, it's a weird way to put it, but your eyes are not really rendering anything during those fast periods. And Valve is literally doing stuff like taking advantage of that with eye tracking to be able to make games render cheaper. And like there's so many examples like that. When I read these patents, I'm learning so much about what makes VR hardware tick, and it is incredibly thrilling. And sure, people are also fascinated when I start talking about this stuff, so they're like, "Hey, you should make a video just kind of explaining it to me. I don't want to read this language of patents or whatever." So I do it, and people get excited. And that's another big thing. I think we're at a time where PCVR is probably the most unexciting time of its life.
Okay,
Hold
on.
Okay.
But
okay.
No. This is all good. We got to time it out though, because we'll get into that. But I want to go backwards a little bit because I don't want to get too far behind. So when you're this advocate for like Valve, and you are the only person, like, and sadly, which I guess ironically with your name didn't mean that, but sadly, the only one that I really see diving into this. And because of that, I want to go back to kind of the whole reason you started this spiel.
Yeah.
You preaching this stuff and you enthusiastically going through patents and hopeful and looking towards the future is not a slight on the current state of VR. And I think that's when I see people pushing back, especially the Oculus Quest lovers. It's because we have to somehow tribalize our headset usage here.
Yeah.
If you are excited about the Valve Index, I guess that means you hate the Oculus Quest. I guess so, Bradley, right? That's what it has to mean. But that's not the case. I'm with you fully that, yes, I do want better software. But how much of the software, and this is kind of 2.1, how much of the software do I kind of use but brush off because the value of that software, I'll use a clear example, best example. Sniper Elite, or at least whatever it is. At least I'm not the big. I haven't had the best time in it, mostly from a gun mechanic standpoint of all the games I've played. But I'll be honest. Yes, I was a little upset about that. But playing it on because for some reason playing with the virtual desktop and Revive just wasn't cutting it. I had to buy the Oculus Quest standard version. Yes, it wasn't the best experience to me, but I would have struggled through it to find my comfortability and find the fun. But the hardware comfortability also was a factor in that experience. And I'm like, I'm not really having the best time with the game. And I'm a little uncomfortable right now. So screw it. I'm done.
Absolutely. I think hardware comfort has huge connotations for VR software retention rates. Even myself, right now it's summer in Florida. I am someone who loves VR. I literally have basically a career in VR. But holy crap, I do not want to put on a heavy headset on my face during summertime. It sucks. Like, it's just the way it is. I am excited for hardware to change very fast to become not only more comfortable, but just remove all the friction, please. Like, it will make things better. Things are, especially now that, like, God, I see new headsets, especially from other manufacturers, that they are going about upgrading VR hardware, in my opinion, the wrong way. I would like, the best example is like throwing insane resolutions just right off the bat to make things better.
Varjo,
Vive Pro 2 is probably the closest example I have right now. So yes, it's amazing for your eyes to have 5K resolution. Of course, that's great. But you know what is not amazing about 5K resolution? Do you know how much heat those panels close to your face give off? Mm-hmm. Within 20 minutes, and this is interesting. I mentioned this in my Vive Pro 2 review, but sorry HTC, not really for screwing you right now, but they have a like auto brightness adjustment thing going on with the Vive Pro 2 that you can only turn off if you go into a secret file in the Vive console software and change a string, which I did because the auto brightness is weird. Anyway.
So can you explain it? I don't have a Vive Pro 2 and I never will.
Okay. So let's say, Half-Life Alyx, you go out into a area, like an alley, like in the middle of the streets. You see in the alley, it's like super dark, but you're outside and sunlit. Well, if you are like half of your eye is looking at the alley and half your eyes are on the sunlit, the auto brightness takes the brightest part of this display. So it basically will turn down the lighting a lot because they're like, okay, this is a super bright area. Let's turn down the brightness so people's displays do not literally catch on fire. But in doing that all that dark area that Valve has masterfully designed this beautiful short alley area with like head crabs and like trash cans.
It's a horror game, so I get it.
Yeah, you miss all the details because this auto brightness thing is just trying to do one thing because they threw a ton of resolution at something, and they're trying to compensate for all the heat by lowering brightness like a lot.
So I turn that off. Egotistical of the headset, isn't it? To take control of the developer's goal and completely change your vision on it. That's super powerful that a headset manufacturer took control of your individual game experience when you think of it that way.
Yeah, and there's no brightness slider anywhere. Like, not in the Steam. They turned it off for Steam VR. They turned it off in the Vive console. Again, this is something you have to change with a text file and a string hidden in the files. Like, this is not something I like when it comes to PCVR, which is like one of its greatest superpowers is this open and just customizability of what you own. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, it's like this is where I get very annoyed because VR hardware is incredibly complex. It's not, you can't compare it to TVs. It's so different to TV technology. There's so many more like things going on that makes a VR headset better than just resolution, for example. And for me, the more I study hardware, the better I am at reviewing hardware. And it's going to make some people mad because they're not understanding that I'm trying to explain why things are bad about a certain hardware piece. I want to explain why companies that are actually putting a lot of time and effort, even the Quest 2 has a lot of R&D and very genius stuff for their lens designs.
I think your interviews are some of the best out there. Like, no, not dead ass, no smoke blowing up ass. Like, they're long, they're thorough, and they're not face value. They are what I need to know. Well, you're spending a lot of money on these headsets, like your Vive Pro 2. How expensive? I don't know. Like full kit, sensors, old Vive wands, and the
like
headset.
$1,400 for the full kit.
So, do I want to watch a 10-minute video glossing over, giving me face value, or do I want to watch something that's literally telling me what I need to know to save myself or spend $1,500 fucking dollars? Yeah. It's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So,
yes.
Sorry, tangent, not blowing smoke grass. It's needed. You do a very good job on your reviews.
Thank you.
But I cut you off there. I'm sorry.
No, I'm glad you like I said, like great to have this back and forth because it helps me like. The biggest thing I struggle with YouTube, and not just like I was almost getting on a tangent there because I revived the Vive Pro 2. I put so much effort into all my heart. Like reviewing VR hardware is probably the most stressful thing I do on my channel. It is.
What's your goal when you do that? Like, what is your? Because everyone has different priorities when they review something. Because it's different people prioritize different things. What's important? What's important to you when you're doing your VR reviews? How do you stick to your guns on what's important to you, but also provide that value to your viewers?
So first of all, I will not go into the tangents on VR reviews if I put on the headset and I can last an hour without any complaints. That's basically my baseline. But if I start noticing things within 5 to 10 minutes, I am in full on, okay, what is going wrong in this VR headset? There are so many different things. It could be the lens, it could be the displays, it could be the tracking, it could be the rendering, it could be the software, it could be the runtimes, it could be so many different things. I need to figure out what is going wrong. There might be multiple things, which for the Vive Pro 2, there was multiple things going on wrong. So I think I could just say, yeah, this headset, I don't recommend it. Don't buy it. Or I can just list all the reasons why I don't think you should buy it, or you should at least buy a comparable headset that's even better, even though it's 2 years old, for example, and it's cheaper. Like, it's important to me not only to give like very detailed reasons why I think this is not a good product in today's market, but at the same time, I also want to kind of educate people, especially a lot of new people coming to VR. Even some of the simplest concepts of what makes VR tick. Like, I think that's very important. I really believe in education. Like, yeah, there's always going to be fanboyism. That's just unavoidable. But if even fanboys come out of my reviews learning something very interesting about how VR hardware works, that's fantastic. As long as they don't spread misinformation about it. But like at the same time, I am so happy when I go into a different Discord, they link my video and they said, wow, I learned something about like vertical FOV or auto brightness adjustments or like stereo overlap, for example. Like that makes me feel good.
I like that.
I don't care how many views. Yeah, I don't care how many views it has.
You're just almost reviewing a headset, but in a way actually giving what, regardless of what they're taking away from said review, you actually reviewed other headsets. Because now when they go watch an Oculus Quest 2 review, they're thinking differently. Now they have knowledge to go, oh, well, that's why it's different. Because if you tell someone, hey, I don't know what the Oculus Quest 2 field of view is, like probably 100, 110? No, that's probably too high. I don't know what
like
it is.
95?
Yeah,
90, 95.
And then you tell someone else what it is on the HTC Vive Pro 2, it's so long of names. Yeah. And you educate them on what that means, on what a horizontal, diagonal, and vertical one means. Yeah. You're not only helping them review that headset, but now if they go watch somebody else's Oculus Quest 2 review, you're educating them on what the questions to ask for them. Because it's a weird thing, too. Have you noticed that... This may be not true.
Go for it. I don't...
Price.
Yeah.
In traditional products... the assumption, and sometimes I think it's more true than in other categories, price dictates quality. Higher price, you're going to expect higher quality. And while that's true in VR, I wouldn't say the user experience is actually the same. The price versus the user experience is not a trending scale of the more expensive it is, the better the user experience. That's not valid. It has some potential, but it's not across the board. A $1,500 headset, I would argue, does not have a better experience than the $1,000 PCVR counterpart, and also doesn't have a better experience than the $300 Oculus Quest 2 counterpart. So you're educated. Like, price is not the tell-all when it comes to VR, where traditionally that might be different scenario, traditional gaming. That's just a thought. It's kind of weird, but yeah, price is weird in VR. It doesn't necessarily equate to your experience.
It is, especially for me. Like I use my Valve Index as my daily driver for VR, but I do not recommend people spend $1,000 for this kit right now, because in today's VR market, that is a lot of money, and you are not really getting the experience for that price. It is outdated. So even though I love the headset to death, And again, people call me a Valve fanboy. I do not usually recommend this headset. I usually tell people either to wait if they really want a PCVR headset, which I know sucks for people to hear, or I tell them, if you don't mind Facebook, you can dabble in VR with $300 and wait for something amazing, because PCVR hardware right now is in a very weird spot. So.
Very weird spot. Yeah. I almost want to pick your brain on it, but I feel like I'm like beating a dead horse, because we've like every single person I've spoken with on the show, or even just on Twitter or Discord, is like it's a dead horse conversation. And as much as I would love to pick your brain on that, it just seems like it's the same thing every time.
Yeah.
What I really want to pick your brain though on Steam Deck. I'll be honest, I'm not a Steam Deck believer. Not in the sense of like it's not going to be a good thing. Like people compare it to the Switch. Bullshit. Don't compare the Switch. The Switch was 4 years old technology when it launched, and I don't know when it launched. What was it? 2015, 16?
It was something around there, 16, I think.
So it was old tech when it launched then, and now we're in 2021. And Valve, who never seems to be price conscious, just gave you on the low end a $400 pretty damn good PC handheld. Insane. So I'm a believer in Steam Deck in the sense of what it is. Like, it is impressive. I'm bummed to fuck that I was working the day that pre-orders went live, and now I'm going to be waiting until 2022 for it. But it is an insanely impressive piece of tech. But the VR community took it like hard on its VR capabilities, and I want you to tell me why. Like, make me a believer on Steam Deck being VR, but then I want to go into Gabe's little interview, because I have some questions for you on that.
Yes. So first of all, I'm gonna just go into an ego trip here.
Okay.
I've been making a lot of predictions about future Valve hardware for 4 months. Everything that the Steam Deck is aligns with everything I've been predicting. Everything. So I feel very happy that now when I start talking about this, I can just point to the Steam Deck and say, hey, I was talking about this 4 months back. Please listen to what I have to say, because I am only saying it because I believe that the Steam Deck actually does mean a lot for VR, even if it's not the Steam Deck itself that means a lot. That being said, I will be modding the heck out of the software for Steam Deck. I do see some VR capability. That was weird. And really, I think it's more of an actual software issue for getting VR running on the thing than actual hardware. I think the hardware is there. It's stronger than the SoC in the Quest 2, for example.
Yes.
Will it work with VR out of the box? No. No, it won't. It's going to be a pain in the butt. But there's so many amazing technologies and rendering technologies. I'm going to put away what Valve's working on for a second just to talk about some of the examples. AMD FSR, which is their like competitor in a way to NVIDIA DLSS. It is a rendering upscaler. So basically allows you to render things at a low resolution, but upscales it while not making it look like garbage, basically. Huge gains for low tier hardware, really. That's the biggest gain. And there is actually a modification that came out like a week ago that allows you to put a certain file into any single Unity or Unreal VR game to let it just work. Stuff like that will make VR a lot more attainable on the Steam Deck. Will it be an amazing experience once we get it running? It's going to be about what you expect. It's not going to be amazing. That being said, I believe the Steam Deck is a mid-step for what we're going to see in a Valve Index 2 compute unit, which every single patent I read, there was 3 that came out today. Every single patent mentions the idea of making the Index 2 a hybrid and standalone unit. Why? There's so many benefits, first of all. I want to explain, first of all, there is way more benefits to having an SoC than focusing on standalone. Valve is not going to focus on standalone content, first of all. They are still very heavy-handed in the idea that PCVR allows amazing openness and a lot of amazing experiences, obviously with graphical power and able to throw a lot of physics and things, which physics is amazing for VR, first of all, and CPU power is very reliant on that. But anyway, At the same time, they're also working on a lot of interesting methods to allow split rendering between a PC and this compute unit in the next index. So not only will it's very trivial to explain like this, but I don't want to spend a long time talking about it. I made videos on this if you want to know more. But basically, it's like kind of how virtual desktop works with its own asynchronous space warp technology going on there. Except it's on insane levels because it's using some insanely new tracking new tracking technology that allows tracking up to 1,000 to 2,000 hertz, which allows the compute unit with the PC and in the Index 2 to actually predict movements way in advance to allow the computer to start rendering these things like, well, it'll have eye tracking, it'll have all these things. So foveated rendering, for example, is something that people are kind of talking about and also downplaying. But for anything, whether standalone or PCVR, eye tracking will give a lot of headroom to allow better experiences, especially with compute units like this. And I even see the idea or the concept that would be attainable for Valve is to have a compute unit very similar to the Steam Deck in the Index 2, and will have the same capabilities to work together with just the Steam Deck itself to actually get a good VR experience to allow more headroom to the Steam Deck to just render the game.
Can I ask you a couple questions on the Valve Index?
Absolutely.
Too, it's semi-pushback, but it's more me as someone who is not following Valve
go for
as
it.
much because I live vicariously through you, going through the pads and stuff. Like, I'm gonna let you do the hard work, and I'm gonna read the TLDRs. But from someone on the outside looking in and reading into Gabe's comments and things like that, I got a couple. For one, I have a concern. Not a concern. That's the wrong word. I don't have any concerns. His interview. Mentioning Quest 2 running on the Steam Deck. There were some, and I actually understand where they're coming from, they actually were worried about that comment, thinking that was them saying we're now into portable PC rather than VR, because why are we saying a competitor can run on this when we know damn well the Valve Index isn't going to run on that? Were you a little concerned that maybe was him saying we're not bought into VR?
So anyone that said that probably did not watch the entire interview. Literally, that was a 30-minute interview, and any time Gaben speaks, he is relating something VR related or BCI related. Gaben is so freaking passionate about VR. It's crazy. The idea that this man who has millions of dollars is pursuing the idea that VR is a mid-step to brain-computer interfaces is just going to give up on VR, PCVR, while also making portable devices run everything on Steam in an open platform. No, that there's nothing to worry about there. The real content, so that clip, and I actually kind of spread that clip around. I'm gonna be honest. It was on my.
That's where I saw it, man.
It was a way to kind of get people excited, because there's so many benefits to PC and PCVR, and the openness is one. This is gonna be running on Linux, for example, which is the most open platform like that out there. And he's showing an example of like features that you can actually do. But at the same time, this question he was being asked was about the openness and like sort of the idea of what's the benefits of not using Windows, for example, or your own operating system that's closed. And Gaben and the rest of Valve believe that this openness is actually what sprouts innovation. So it's even beneficial for them to allow the Epic Games Store or a competitor that has their own VR unit to work. And at the same time, if you look at, I mean, all these Quest 2 users are plugging their headsets in and using Steam. Of course, it benefits Valve.
That's where I wanted to go next. Because in my mind, who saves is the wrong term, but who makes PCVR more relevant again quicker? So I don't think they need to save anything because it's still there. It's alive and well. People will start in one spot and gravitate. They want bigger and bigger experiences. So I never say PCVR is dead. It's not. No. But in my mind, Valve is in a great spot to bring it to the light again, mostly because they are profiting without making any game. All they have to do is give the incentives and the visibility. I know you've made an entire video on Steam being a little bit of a mess. But if they could somehow make the visibility factor better, they not only have the ability to make PCVR more relevant, but they will profit off of it because everyone will buy off of Steam. Airlink and Virtual Desktop work very well, guys. They work very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Team Valve for the sense that I think they are the number one advocate that can make PCVR more relevant quicker. That's my opinion.
I don't think there's anyone else that will except Valve. That's it. And oh crud, there was something you mentioned that you just mentioned how like SteamVR is in a very rough state.
Mm-hmm.
And really PCVR rough state right now. I would say this is a very huge coasting year, not just for PCVR, but for VR in general. Like this, we had some just insane moments last year, like just for VR. We had Half-Life Alyx, we had the Quest 2, we had so many huge things that everything in comparison feels very slow this year.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of stuff happening in the background for sure, not just at Valve, but at everyone that's touching VR. There's some insane stuff in the works.
Can I ask you real quick, to cut you off on that? Why was that a bad thing to some people? Where some people say, oh, since Half-Life Alyx, nothing's hit me. Like, okay, you can take that poorly, or so you admit that there was an experience that showed you how amazing virtual reality could be. That's a win. Just like everything else, I don't get a blockbuster movie every month. I don't get a movie that blows my mind every month, but they come in time. And because you go keep watching things because you know how great things can be. Not everyone will hit, but one will, and it will blow your fucking mind. And the fact that Half-Life Alyx blew your mind and you're like, yeah, that was awesome, everything else pales in comparison, that's not a negative. That's a proof of concept in my mind.
Yep.
Why don't we have that mindset? Why has it got to be negative? It's a proof of concept that was amazing, and it will only get better.
I think the big problem with why people see it that way is a lot of people are coming into VR new, and some of the loudest people, they're treating VR as like another console, for example.
Mm-hmm.
They think that there's going to be AAA experiences every couple of months because that's kind of what they've been groomed to feel about platforms in general. Like you have a PlayStation 5, they will make sure that there's something big coming at least once every 3 months. VR is not in nowhere near as in a healthy state as a lot of these consoles are. You cannot expect that right now. Yes, there are a lot of money and a lot of big things in the works, but as we were talking about earlier, there's so much experimental stuff that like so many weird mechanics we're seeing just posted in like on Twitter, like little clips, blow our mind, and we see the potential. But being able to mix everything together in a coherent experience that is also engaging with high retention rates, that's insane work. No one's gonna get it right the first time. Yeah.
And there's people doing really cool stuff like oh man, what's her name? Genghis or Gingis. I don't know how to pronounce it. Gingas VR. I see amazing tweets from her, and I've checked out her channel before. She's amazing. And she's like you times like 10, I'm gonna be honest, man, on just experimenting with the most random crap. And I loved her. She's huge into Skyrim, and I loved her recent Skyrim little clip where she's got
I saw that one.
Be Haptic's vest. She's got the voice recognition for doing stuff. She's got her environmental controls, aka your fan, when the wind gust needs to hit you. Like people like that are really experimenting, and like I've had like dreams because of watching that stuff. Like I had a dream one time where I went indoor skydiving, happened to have my Oculus Quest with me, just decided to jump into VR chat, find the tallest thing I could do, jump off of it, and of course it's a dream, so it's flawless, and we timed it perfectly for starting to skydive, and it's amazing. Like that's the kind of stuff I dream of. Whatever happened to Feel? What was that Smell-O-Vision one? Feel Real?
Feel Real or whatever. Yeah, that that was they banned what was it? The vape products or whatever that they used in that. So they couldn't actually release. Yeah, it was bad timing for them, unfortunately.
Oh, that's a shit. Is it I gotta look into that more after this. I wonder if it was actually a safety risk or if they just got wrong place, wrong time.
It was just there was a lot of epidemics happening with vaping, especially in elementary schools. So of course governments are like, Well, not the children. So they just banned it, and it actually affected Feel Real. It didn't have anything to do with Feel Real. They were just using the same stuff that a lot of vape products were using that was just banned. So
yeah, that's important. I did have my own concerns with that company, but like I don't know if
there
you know,
was
like,
some weird stuff for sure, but yeah.
It's a weird thing too. Like I don't know how much you know about like smelling, but like it's a multi-process function. It's the intake and the outtake. Like that smell.
Yeah.
You don't just go and that's the smell. It's also part of the outtake. You have to evacuate the nose. And I always wonder if I'm just shooting smells up to my nose and it's self-contained unit like this, how am I evacuating? That seems a little weird, but I'm all for it. Like that fringe, like I'm wearing this, like that fringe stuff, I'm all for. And I know we can go back to full body tracking. Like you dove into that because I know you wanted to get into that. Let's get into full body tracking. What made you dive into that?
My friends were pestering me for years, and I was bored because it was a coasting year for VR. So I'm like, okay, nothing interesting going on, I guess, whatever. I'll try out full body tracking. It's expensive, but whatever. I see my friends spending literal days like straight in VR chat because of it. And that's really it. It was just friends pestering me, and I'm glad they finally got me into it. I feel like an idiot. I feel like an absolute idiot, honestly. That
can you explain to someone watching this the disconnect? Because there's a price tag, on it, right? And how much different could it be if you have no experience in trying it? How different could it be? How would you convince someone the value add of full body tracking if they're into stuff like Blade and Sorcery, VR chat, things that actually use it right now?
I think if you're already a big fan of VR chat, you are probably going to get full body tracking at some point anyway. But if you're not into VR chat, so the first time you put on the headset, the VR headset, and try 60 UF VR for the first time, that feeling where your brain just clicks. I've been saying that a lot, but we've been talking a lot about brain clicking topics here.
You're about to get into BCIs next, huh?
Yes, hopefully. But yeah, like it is really, for me, this is how I feel right now. 60 UF VR is the first brain, like the level of your brain getting blown. Above that, I would put B haptics and stuff like that, a little slightly above. It's great. For me, there's still a lot of friction, ironically, for me, but it's still very cool. Then we go way above. Full body tracking is there. It is like really for me the next big step in immersion for you. It seems incredibly cosmetic to a lot of people, and I attribute this highly to the problem that it's really hard to it's really VR had the same problem. I did videos on YouTube for a while, and I did my best to really share the experiences that you feel in VR. But in this 2D format, you can't really, it doesn't translate well at all. And really, if you don't have full body tracking, it's the same way. You can't understand what it feels like or the brain connections you have when your legs and your waist are moving one-to-one with your real life body. But I can just say over and over, and I can just praise the technology for what it is as the next step. And I see it when it gets cheaper as being a thing that every VR user will want. It's a very early access thing, and it's been for a few years now, but we're starting to see some huge interest in making these systems cheaper, and people are getting extremely excited, which makes me feel very happy because full body tracking is also a chicken and egg problem. Like, yeah, there's only a few content pieces that work with full body tracking, but that's because there's just not the user base to really give incentive to developers to implement it.
Well, people
but at
like
the same
you
time,
are also selling it though. Like the people who are selling full body tracking the most are not actually even talking about it. They are just using it. So for example, like I just had, I don't know if they were having, like he was sitting down, so I didn't see his legs, but it didn't matter. I could tell he had the setup. I was talking to Lil Bagel in VR chat. I've talked to Joshua Corvinus on a fireside chat. I've talked to Peck on a fireside chat. The more you talk to these people who embody their avatars, they're less and less avatars the more you talk to them. I was sitting talking to Lil Bagel about nothing. We really weren't talking about anything important. And I'm in this nice little lawyer's office. Lil Bagel, I joked with quite a bit that he chose a map that he was elevated much higher than I was while I was sitting down. Nice little power play, buddy. Nice little power play. I see you. But as I'm just like staring at him, the eyes twitching, the little movements, the little shoulder shrugs, like once you start paying attention to that, you start talking to virtual beings. They're not virtual anymore. They are just another being. And that is more preferable to me than any Zoom call, than any Discord call. No offense, Bradley. But
no, absolutely.
It's like the people who are using these tracking and taking control of their avatars. I wish VR chat would let you natively use, I don't know if you want to call yourself out here. Is there a way to use the Vive tracker in VR chat?
Sorry, wait.
The
what
Vive
the mouth tracker?
I don't want to get you in trouble here.
There is, but it's convoluted and it might get you banned.
Yeah, so. That's what I was trying to get you in trouble with. Yes. But if you could put all this together, you're just another human now with a different body. That's all you are. Like anyone who hasn't, if you talk to anyone with full body tracking, eye tracking, and the Vive mouth tracker, which I have and I haven't used it that much, you're talking to a human being. Like it's insane. It is absolutely insane.
I want to pivot a little bit. I'm sorry, but I want to pivot a little bit too. We're talking about full body tracking, and I was saying it's like a next step. Well, above that, eye and face tracking, which is more of an attainable solution for HMDs to include that technology in the box. That's why we see a lot of strings being leaked, and Zuckerberg talking about their next Quest will probably have eye and mouth tracking built in, because it adds a lot to social VR, more than you could possibly expect. So here is a Vive Pro Eye that is blurry with a mouth tracker on it. I did not have an eye tracked headset until I got a mouth tracker. I put my mouth tracker on my index. I was amazed by my mouth moving, my tongue moving, and everything. My cheeks puffing. It was a small thing, but it was awesome. But I couldn't help but notice my eyes were just stationary while this is happening, and that made me feel weird. So what did I do? I went out and I bought this thing. This is an $800 headset as well, just so I can have the full face and eye tracking. This paired with full body tracking is so amazing. It's just.
Do you have the wireless adapter on that as well? I see.
I can, yeah. It works with wireless. It's not supposed to work, but it does sometimes. So, but yeah, I mean, it's incredible. Like you go into Neos with all of this, and it works, and you also have haptics at the same time. It's just such an out of body yet in body experience. You just don't feel part of the actual natural world anymore. You feel totally in it. There's not one thing I think about. Like I don't think about anything. There's no friction. Despite all this crap I'm putting on my body, I don't feel any friction that makes me reminded I am in the real world and I have all this stuff put on. And it's worth it to me. Even though it's super expensive, I'm totally aware that most people are not going to invest in it. I see the value in it now. And I know within a couple years, it's going to be everywhere.
You also say invest in it, but the key word is invest in it now. Like that's the key word, is that yes, most people might not invest in it now, but it's the natural progression. The same reason PCVR is not dead. It's the natural progression. Give me a Game Boy, I'll have fun. What do I want after the Game Boy? A Game Boy Advance. What do I want after the Game Boy Advance? A Nintendo 64. Like, what do I want after that? Like, it's the natural progression. We want something bigger after. That's why it's not dead. Last topic, man. Before time limit hits and I get yelled at too much more. I know. Let's talk about eye tracking. Let's talk about it. You are a big fan. There are some people who are also worried. Zuckerberg today just explained how expensive the metaverse is going to be. And I don't know if you caught his quotes. He has alluded fully it's going to be funded by ads. So eye tracking. It can have the benefit of creating a lifelike situation. It can have the benefit of foveated rendering. It can have the benefit of diagnosing disease. And it can have the cons of knowing every little thing about you and tailoring the experience to that regardless of your choice. Are you, Bradley? You can be an advocate and a concerned person at the same time. But at the end of the day, something either benefits will outweigh the risk or risk will outweigh the benefits. Pro eye tracking or cautiously concerned? I won't even say against, because no one's against eye tracking.
VR cannot VR hardware cannot continue to improve without eye tracking.
Yes.
It's literally imperative. Like, it's impossible. Not even just the foveated rendering to make resolutions run better, but also there's a lot of things such as like artifacting in displays can actually be solved by predicting the eye movements ahead of time. Stuff like pupil swim, which is kind of like when your eyes are moving around fast, and some displays do this, the lines start kind of bending. That can also be improved with eye tracking. There's a lot of artifacting, and not only that, also allowing you to have higher or better motion blur techniques for rendering, so you can reach higher refresh rates greater than 500 hertz, for example. There is literally no way for VR to get better without eye tracking. That is just the truth of the technology. Rendering like hardware is not going to catch up with these insane displays that manufacturers are making. We can keep trying to throw AI and machine learning, which will help, but it's just not as attainable as including eye tracking out of the box. That being said, the technology itself is not evil, but the people implementing these technologies can be evil. We've seen that very much so in VR already, and it makes me so upset and very painful in a lot of ways to be a part of this industry, because you see it getting popularized and passed away as not a big deal. And first of all, the main reason why I'm so worried about this, I'm so worried about the lack of worry that people are having with this kind of stuff about privacy in VR, is I agree with the idea that VR is purely just a transitional phase until we get brain-computer interfaces. Eye tracking alone, especially paired with face tracking and a heart rate sensor to add to that, it's actually the first step to actual non-invasive BCIs. The data that eye tracking especially gives is insane. You're already giving some examples. For example,
let me rattle off some here for you. Sexual preferences, sexual orientation, disease, body structure, what your interests are, likes, dislikes. They say the eyes are the window of the soul, and the information they're getting is exactly that. They will know you based off your eye tracking or eye movements. You are known based off those. It tells the entire story. It tells your family history. It's all true.
Yeah, it's very painful for me because I'm so passionate about this hardware, and I actually get depressed when I see these threads talk about it, because it's terrible that we're not even before we get eye tracking, we're not caring about what Facebook is collecting about us, like with our movements and with the stuff that like we're putting devices that are able to map our entire rooms. At some point, they showed off this technology at OC6, being able to map your entire rooms and houses and applying metadata files for each object in your room. And people are applauding when they were showing this off at OC6, and I'm just looking around like, we're doomed. I really feel that way in a lot of ways, and it kills me because people are not worried about it now. But again, VR is a mid-step to BCIs. Are people just going to start worrying when people can literally read your mind with brain-computer interfaces?
About the fact that I think about this a lot? I'm 31, and in my life, I've given up a lot of privacy for privilege and convenience. And so far, I say so far with the asterisk, I have not personally had any negative effects. And there's entire generations that are younger than me that grew up with it even more, that have given up everything about themselves. They don't like when it's terms of service, agree, which we all do, no problem. We agree. It'll ask you then, when you download an app, 10 prompts. Are you okay with this? Are you okay? Yeah. Give me the app. And they've never seen any negative repercussions about it. So I'm with you. I'm on team Bradley here of, yes, I want to ask the questions every time. I will never stop asking the question and worrying and thinking about the negatives. But at the end of the day, is all these privacy concerns the story about how we all want to buy into a story that, yes, there's evil out there and privacy, blah, blah? Or is it one of those things where most people will never see any negative benefits, so we're fighting in endless fights?
I want to step in for a moment.
It's a tough question.
I actually don't think it's that tough a question. So being a youth, this is going to be very weird and seem very out there. I'm bringing this up,
Go
but
ahead.
being a YouTuber is a lot more stressful and painful for mental health than people expect. And I think so people feel like that all this information and all this data is not doing anything to them, but really I would say it is, but indirectly. All this personal data that are making platforms and social media platforms, especially such as YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they're using all this information to exploit people, to use these platforms more while also making money off of your data. And a lot of these methods to get people to use it more are directly effective and negative toward mental health. We see stories all the time of young kids are growing up in this social media lifestyle and they're getting depressed. Some of them are even committing suicide because it's just too much. They're being bombarded with all these negative emotions and they don't know why. It's literally because social media companies do not care about you guys. They do not care. They are using all your personal data to exploit you, to make these platforms more addicting and more really just awful. So when I hear people say, "Oh, well, I don't mind that I'm getting a few tailored ads." Ads are only the beginning of all the data that these companies are using. Again, these companies are working on brain-computer interfaces. They have psychologists that are literally picking apart all the data they're getting in this huge mass. Some of it anonymized, some of it might not be, some of it might not be anonymized, and then a foreign power or foreign company steals that data in a data leak. There are so many negatives about personal data, guys, being just harvested from you. The Quest 2 is not free, and it kills me that it's successful. It hurts me, and I see the writing on the wall of it getting worse, and it really does hurt me. Like I quit YouTube. I know I said I was getting bored, but really I quit YouTube because it was not making me happy. It was making me far from that, and I was not able for years to come back to YouTube until I was able to just take a deep breath and learn ways to just step off the internet for moments, because every website now is all going this social media way, because again, social media is tailored to exploit you as a person.
How do you find your happiness then on YouTube right now? I think it's an important question. How do you find your happiness?
Yeah, I actually feel more happy on YouTube than I do ever. I think because of the fact that I go ridiculously in depth with what I talk about all the time, makes my audience a lot more level-headed too. So I am not being bombarded by people. I get the stray people, the fanboys and stuff, but compared to when I first started YouTube, my content has also changed my audience, and that audience makes me a lot more happy overall. So
I'm really happy to hear that, man. I really am. Like, for those watching, like, there's no way to say this without sounding like an asshole. Like, go make a YouTube channel. Like, right now. Just go do it. Just go do it, pussy. Like, go make a YouTube channel right now. Go find the most hardcore topic that you love, that you feel intrinsically valuable, that defines you, and go make a video. Watch what happens. Yeah. Maybe it'll go good. 9 out of 10 times. It won't go good or bad. It will go nothing, which is worse than good or bad.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult to delineate, is it me? Is it the content? Is it the algorithm? Whose fault is it? And it doesn't matter whose fault is it. You will, because you're a human being and a good person. I believe 99.9% of people are good people. You'll blame yourself. Yeah. You just will, because you're a good person and you intrinsically know that it's you, but it's not. It might be a little bit. I mean, fuck it, it might. But let's be honest, sometimes it will be, but 9 out of 10 times, 99 out of 100 times, it's not you. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a tough game. So remember that, Kevin. I'm saying Kevin because I saw the comment on one of the videos, this channel is dying. Yeah, okay. We all read these comments. We read them. We shouldn't, but we do. It's a tough game. And there are people providing you free. Hey, Bradley, how much money do you charge your subscribers?
I don't advertise anything. I don't advertise my Patreon, nothing. It's all passion. I swear.
Free content. And it's not when I say free content, it's not free content with stipulations of selling. It's human beings who have enough passion to use their free time to share info. There's no motive. I can't say that across the board, but I can say that with Bradley, I can say that with me, I can say that with Thrill, BMF, Steve Knows, Mateo. I can say it with a bunch of people in VR. I can list it off. There's no motive other than this is huge. This is fucking huge. VR. Like, it is the next computing platform.
Yeah.
Get in
I
now.
could not have said it better myself. Absolutely.
I think it's a good place to almost end it, but I do like to give my guests the floor at the end. And anything we haven't touched, anything important to you, anything you want your audience to really think about, I give the floor to you, Bradley.
God, I'm very emotional right now because I always get emotional talking about this stuff. But I'm very thankful for this industry. I know sometimes I come off. I was talking about this earlier before we started the stream, but I come off very smug, and I will say a lot of it is just my personality and the way I talk just comes off that way. I promise you, if I am ever speaking somewhat negative about something that you're passionate about in the industry, I'm not trying to crash it. I love everything about this industry. I'm very thankful for all the opportunities this industry has given to me, and that's all. Thank you guys so much, is all I can say.
That's all that's needed to be said. Guys, who's ever watching this, Sadly It's Bradley, check out his YouTube channel. You will not be disappointed. You will get every update about Valve for sure. You will get the awesome stuff like BCI's full body tracking. Basically, if there's a reason to expand your brain on the possibilities, there are VR news channels. They're great. There are VR gameplay channels. They're great. There are VR podcast channels. They're great. Everyone's great. But you're getting the fringe, future forward thinking with the detail that you need to make an educated decision and an educated on anything else you watch. You'll get the knowledge. There's the pitch. Go follow Sadly It's Bradley. And if you enjoy this type of content and you just happen to catch this part and didn't have time to watch everything, all this will be clipped, the juicy bits on Eric for Present Clips. Hit that subscribe button to stay on top of the daily clips, or catch the debates and fireside chats live on the main channel down in the video description. See you next time, Space Cowboys.